Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be back. I really enjoyed last year, and so I wanted to repeat the experience. For those who were here last year or saw the video, you could see that perhaps I take a bit of a different slant when it comes to skepticism because, while I have a real big interest in science, I'm not so much of a science guy. I never actually took the science classes. I went with math in high school, but I enjoy asking questions and challenging ideas, but mostly I enjoy challenging my own thoughts and ideas and beliefs and perceptions in my own mind, because I know that at any point in time that what I'm thinking is probably wrong, or at least there's an element of there that's incorrect. And so if I can investigate that and challenge it, that maybe I can get closer to the truth and to a truth that would help me the best. So today I have a bit of a different talk. Last year I talked about challenging ourselves as far as finding out what's possible versus impossible for ourselves. And so now I want to focus out onto our perception as far as the community around us and what's possible when we can work with them. So it's a little bit of a story. So finding goodness, how a simple idea can bring together a community. So I have some goals here then. Make sure the cursor is in the right place. Okay, goals. First of all, I wanted to explain my quest. So basically how I got to the point I am here and some of the backstory. Also share what humanism means to me. Now I say humanism here because that's sort of what I identify most with. And I believe that part of humanism, a big part of it, is skepticism as well, and I'll explain that. Also to experience sort of the adventure that I had, and so you can share on that experience a little bit with me, as well as perhaps inspire some action here as well. So if the time that I spend here with you perhaps gets you thinking about some ideas about maybe action that you can take that will make this world a better place, and this will definitely be a very worthwhile experience here for myself and hopefully for you too. So I wanted to get into, here's a picture of me and my family here. It's our family shot from a couple of years ago. But you see, all of us are busy, right? We're all busy. And I think everyone, even if you don't have a family, you don't have kids, we can say that we're busy. But you get even more busy when you have kids. So I have 2 kids, they keep me busy all the time. My profession as well, I'm a speaker and entertainer, but once I started having kids at that same point in time, that was when I started to build up a business. I quit my job, have all these sort of uncertainties, and now I have to build a business. Again, busy, busy, busy. And what else am I busy with? I love running. So I've been getting more and more into ultra marathon races. And last year I talked about the experience of attempting my first 100-mile race. But this takes a long time. So again, busy, 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 and just life in general. I think we can all relate. There's probably not a single person that wouldn't be able to say that they just have so much to do. But there's one thing that was always in the back of my mind, okay, is that all these things I was spending all this time with and all this time about was all about me, right? Me, me, me. All of it. Me and my family, my career, my hobbies, my passions. It was all about me. And if I wanted to really identify with the values I had, I wanted to help others. I wanted to make the world a better place. I wanted to, help people that are less fortunate. But all throughout this sort of history of mine, I realized that I'd always focused on how can I make my life better? How can I make my business better? How can I, do my running better? Whatever it is, it's always about me. So I realized that as things were sort of getting a little bit more under control, my kids were getting a little bit older, my business was getting more established, I wanted to start investigating this area because I truly believe that giving back does provide, a higher value of life and a higher level of satisfaction as well. So this is where I bring in the idea of humanism. Now certainly I enjoy asking questions. I love the idea of skepticism. Also I've been a lifelong atheist, but again, it's not so much that I want to focus on a practical sense, what I'm against, but more what I'm for. So for goodness sake, I want to do good for goodness sake. So focusing on not what I'm necessarily against, but what I'm for. And this is how I like to think. I like to think in a very practical sense. Now, in the same way, though, I want to also find an opportunity not just to give back as myself, but also with my family as well. You know, my kids, they get older, then they start thinking about how terrible their life is and all the restrictions we put on their life, and it's so unfair, their life, but realize they don't appreciate how truly good they have it. So is there a way that I can give back, express some of these values of wanting to help others, but also bring my kids, my wife, the whole family into the mix on helping? So, first part, I did join the Humanist Atheists and Agnostics of Manitoba. That's actually where I was connected with this group. But what the first step I wanted to do too is I started to volunteer with the organization, and now I'm on the executive. And I thought that was one small way of being able to use my value system and trying to make a world a better place. But it was through the Humanist Association that I heard about a charity called Lunches with Love. Now, admittedly, I'd actually heard of this charity before because it was a flyer that came home with my kids at school. And like most things that come home, little flyers and things with my kids from school, I don't pay attention to it too much. But in this case, it came through the organization. I learned a little bit of it, and it sounded like a great opportunity. Because first of all, I learned that this charity actually was operating a block and a half away from my house in their apartment. So that was great. And I'll definitely share some information about Lunches with Love and why it was such a great fit. But this is one thing too I want to stress, whether it's Humanist Association or the Skeptics, I believe there's a connection between what we talk about and giving back as well. Because I do see a value as far as debating and discussing these topics amongst ourselves, but I do think there's a connection that if as an organization that we have values, we want to improve things, that we can turn that into action. Okay? To turn it into action, whether it's education or advocacy or volunteering or do whatever we need to do, that there's a connection between our group and making the world a better place in whole, beyond this room, beyond just discussing with ourselves. And I know that the Winnipeg Skeptics does do the blood drives and they do the Habitat for Humanity, and I definitely encourage you to get involved in things like that as well as volunteering for the organization. Well, Lunches with Love, okay? Now this is Nathan. He started the charity when he was 12 years old, okay? He's 13 now. And he was in grade 7 and he wanted to get into WE Day. And that's that big thing that happened in downtown Winnipeg. And in order to get a ticket there, they had to do some sort of charitable work. So he decided that he was going to make a few paper bag lunches for people that are homeless. He went and delivered them. Found that there was a greater need, and it turned into, 10 months later, something even bigger. Just grew and grew and grew and brought people into his apartment and, got donations of food, had volunteers come in. It was really neat. And this is his parents here as well. And one thing you'll notice about this picture, this is a very recent picture, they happened to just get a sponsor for a special event. It's a little company called Coca-Cola. All right, and you'll see that they have some custom lunch bags out of canvas that they had made, T-shirts. All of us had T-shirts. You can see all these volunteers in the back. They had a community center, and one thing you might be able to see back there, there's actually a big van that has the logo Lunches with Love, and they made the logo for them too. They had a whole caravan of vans going downtown. Coke sponsored it. Bought all the food, made 2,000 lunches with all the volunteers that weekend. They drove down with the vans, went to all the homeless shelters, passed out all this food, and it was really, really exciting and neat to see. But 10 months ago, it was just Nathan in his apartment, okay? And here is another picture of people packing lunch bags just in an apartment. It's just a small thing that started, again, with a kid, okay, and supportive parents as well, of course. And here's a picture of me volunteering there. And in fact, the Humanist Association had a whole bunch of members there those first few times I went. And it was really neat to see an organization come out and give back as well. Now, what's great with Lunches with Love that perhaps is different than from some other charity opportunities is, you see right there, there's my daughter. She's actually helping pack bags as well. they can actually have kids volunteering here too, packing the food into the lunches. They even do like decorating the paper bags and little fun messages for the people that receive them. But again, this is an opportunity. Yes, giving money is awesome and it's very, very important, but this is an opportunity to be hands-on and provide educational experience as well that is powerful for everybody involved, okay? And my wife too, she's probably even bigger of a supporter these days than I am. My son, he just turned 6 years old, so he doesn't quite have the attention span to get involved in this, but there was one day that we went out to Main Street Project, and as a family and as some other people that came out, we actually went out and we handed out the lunches to the people there, and my kids loved it because they could actually see the people and the smiles and the compliments of the people who actually received the benefit of this. And there's a story that was really amazing that when I was stationed at one spot handing things out, but my wife and some other people and my kids went out, and there was one guy that was sleeping under a tarp that was set up. But my son, 6 years old, he didn't want to leave without him having a lunch. And so his idea was to just, leave it beside him so that when he woke up, it would be there. And maybe on a practical sense, maybe it wouldn't be there. Who knows what was happening to him and when he would wake up. But again, just this idea of this kindness coming out, I think, is a really sort of magical experience and something that we were able to share, which is really neat. But this is where some of this questioning comes in, okay? I'm always questioning my thoughts, and I want to know, is there a way to do more? Okay? Because there's a limit to how much food donation or money donation I can give. There's a limit. There's a limit to how much time I can spend. Because I'm busy, we're all busy. There's a limit. So how could I do more? Okay? Because I'm busy, just like everyone else. But what am I busy doing? Like here's a picture of I did a race. It was called Active Epica. It was a 130-kilometer winter race. Went from St. Malo, Manitoba to the Forks and kind of zigzagged its way up on some roads and paths and things like that. But that took a lot of training, okay? And it took a lot of time. So this is what I'm spending my time doing. Again, it's all about me. But the thing is, thinking about this, I was like, is there some way that perhaps the running could benefit the charity? Could I do what I love to do and would do anyway, and would it benefit the charity? Would it help to give back? And in fact, this effort actually got me on CBC National News. There was coverage about the race, but it was a focus specifically on me. So there's definitely an interest in the media about what I was doing. And so this got things clicking, okay? Because I do think that all of us have a specific talent. Maybe it's with money, maybe it's communication, myself with running, or whatever it is you do. We all have a specific talent and a way that we can contribute that perhaps is more than just donating, but a way that we can get maximum benefit as far as helping others. So again, this is just thinking about this. And in business, I'd always thought about what could I do that gets more results, Because there's some things you can do that, might make you $10, but there's other things you can do that takes the same amount of time, you can earn $100. What is the most efficient way of doing this? So this is what I just kept thinking to myself, how can I connect the running and make it most worthwhile? Now, I had thought about what I had done about 4 years ago. Okay, this is a newspaper article from the Winnipeg Sun. What I did was I actually did a motivational presentation for an inner city school. And it was a presentation at the beginning of the day and a presentation at the end of the day. In between that, for 6 hours straight, I ran around their schoolyard, okay, in the back. Now it was actually really neat. As you can see the smiles on the kids' faces that are at the top, but all day through the gym classes and recesses and the classes that the teachers just brought them out, all day I had kids running with me. They're telling me their stories and about their adventures and their life and the things they wanted to do. And it was really neat to see this sort of enthusiasm coming out with the kids. So I knew there was some excitement about connecting with the community when it came with running. And this was just 6 hours, but it's certainly not running across Canada or something like that. But it was a simple thing that made a difference, at least with these kids. And is there a way that I could help Lunches with Love not only bringing additional food donations, but also increasing awareness? Because this is a long-term effort that they're doing. Every 2 weeks they create lunches. If I could attract 1 or 2 additional people who will donate food on a regular basis or volunteer on a regular basis, that would be more than what I can just do myself, that I could provide a way that they're being helped long-term because of my effort. So I created this idea called the 24-hour marathon to fight hunger. I went into Fiverr.com, had someone create a snazzy logo for me, and I knew from experience that you just can't approach someone with this sort of vague idea in your head and ask them to accept it. You really had to come up with a real concrete example of what you wanted to do. So I created a logo and everything, and this was my idea. I'd actually created a loop, okay? This is in my area of Charleswood. Now, just to get a bearings here, this is the Perimeter Highway, the West Perimeter Highway. Roblin Boulevard is at the top there. Right over there is my house. Like the blue would be the loop. It's a 4.2 kilometer loop, which I would repeat 24 hours straight, just around and around and around. The reason that my house is on the loop is that just in case no one had any interest in this and there's no excitement, I was just going to do it by myself, I would at least have a place to stop and get food and water and use the washroom and be completely self-sustained. And right over here is actually where the apartment where Lunches with Love was operating out of, so it was in their neighborhood. It was a great connection with the charity itself. Right over here is Beaver Lodge School on Rannoch. That's where my kids go. I thought that would be a great place to start and finish the event because you could do a little motivational thing like before and have something that maybe my kids might be a little proud of their dad. Now over here too is Westdale Junior High, which I passed by twice. They ended up getting involved as well. And up there is sort of the Roblin and Dale area, our retail sector of the immediate area. And hopefully maybe we could get some sponsors and things like that out of there. So that's what I created. I created that loop right there. Now, one thing you'll know if you heard my talk last year, my goal is to do 100-mile races, and I knew I needed to get past the psychological element of running 24 hours or longer. So this was actually something that I first created to simply get the training in, and this is something I wanted to connect and do good at the same time. So something I was going to do anyway. And instead of being like on a forest trail, which was my first idea, and the idea that like what if like 20 hours in I pass out and they find me like who knows how much longer later, I'm actually in a residential area, so it's much safer. My wife liked the idea that I'd be checking in at home quite regularly. Okay? But she was annoyed actually that every 45 minutes in the middle of the night, the door would be opening and the alarm would go beep, beep, beep. She got no sleep, but there, so it was. So again, this brings back the idea of humanism, and I knew that the idea, I wanted to do good, but it was in order to make it something really great, other people have to be involved. So my belief then is that first of all, people are good. I believe that we are good, and above that we want to do good. But sometimes we're just so busy in our own life, like I was, like I still am, we just don't take that step to start helping, even though a small thing can make a big difference. And sometimes people are just looking for a leader, a reason to get involved, a reason to be inspired. So maybe I could be sort of a catalyst for a greater action in this particular case. So there's a few people I had to convince. First of all was Beaver Lodge Elementary. Would they be a part of this? Now, I didn't get the assembly time I was hoping to, but it actually turned out even better. I started the run with the running club at school, which had about 40 members, so we all ran together. And at the next day at 8 a.m., so it would go from 8 a.m. on a Wednesday to 8 a.m. on a Thursday, there was actually a pancake breakfast with the running club to finish. So that was pretty fun and idea and exciting. But that was easy to convince them because, I'm a parent in the school, but the harder perhaps was this guy, trying to convince this guy. But that's Nathan. But of course, I sent an email to his mom, Elsie, And I was kind of nervous, so I put together a big proposal, because here's just some guy that volunteered a couple of times. I want to run 24 hours, and I kind of want to help him. It sounds kind of weird. So I put together a whole proposal on all my ideas and what we could do, and some media I've got in the past, and why I want to do this and all that. And luckily, and even though she did admit that she did a little checking around online just to make sure I was on the up and up, she liked what she saw, and they were in and excited, so that was fun. We were approved. So no matter what happened from that point on, we were ahead. It was going to be something. So what was really exciting, as soon as this idea started to spread, people like these sort of values, whether they call it humanism or not, this idea that people are good, people started to want to come in. They wanted to help. They saw a good thing happening, so it was a way to inspire people. So first of all, Beaver Lodge Elementary, they did food drives for us. Okay, so they did toonies for tuna, they called it. So kids would bring in toonies, and the school would use that money to go and buy large cans of tuna, and tuna sandwiches is one of their sort of staples. Also, Westdale Junior High, which was on that map as well, they got their leadership class students to do a food drive as well. And then a friend of mine who I run with sometimes is a teacher at Toulon Collegiate, and now Toulon Collegiate was getting their students to do a food drive as well. So we already had 3 student bodies learning about the cause, learning about the charity, and actively participating in providing food. So that was really, really exciting. Now, Extra Foods is a store, grocery store that's in our area, and with them just hearing about it, we never approached them. They came in and they decided they were going to donate food, so they donated a lot of food to the cause. And also Park West Inn, which is close to Roblin and Dale. It's not quite. They actually own the property beside it, which used to be a gas station, which is still empty. But that corner spot where there's a parking lot there too. They told us that we could set up a donation stand there, sort of a central stand for the community to collect food and money donations at that corner there. So again, this is just someone who came to us. And not only would they give us the spot, they actually gave us a table to use. They gave us a tent canopy, and they even brought canned drinks, and a big tub of ice for the volunteers too. It was really fantastic of these people coming together. Now, another thing here too, someone pointed this out to me. Tensor Brand, part of 3M Canada, was holding a contest. If you were doing a physical activity in the name of charity or raising money or whatever, you could enter, and people would vote for you, and if you're the highest votes, you would win, and they would also take in consideration that your passion for the cause and things like that. But this was really fun too, because throughout Facebook, through Lunches with Love fans and my friends, and even people in this room here too, started voting. So we had literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people helping out by voting for the cause. And I actually won the 3rd round there, the contest that I was in, which got $2,000 for Lunches with Love, which go directly to them. So I was named one of their heroes. And so this is the closest I've ever come to being a sponsored athlete. Thanks. No, one thing I wanted to point out is that the other 2 people that won the contest before me, like the earlier rounds, round 1 is a guy that biked across Canada. Okay, round 2 is a guy who ran across Canada, and round 3 is me who just ran around Charleswood. Okay? But it kind of gives you the idea that sometimes you don't have to do the biggest or the best or the grandest. Sometimes it just takes something it can be something smaller, and that small things can inspire too if you have the right story. So with media then, this is the big part. Lunches with Love wanted more volunteers, more people to donate. So their big thing is, we could get some more media. But media was great. But my goal was just to get 2 articles. Remember that run from 4 years ago, I had 1 article, so I wanted to get at least 2. But it actually worked out really well. Media just came out, they loved the story, okay? I was in the Winnipeg Free Press twice, once before the event and once after the event. I was in the Winnipeg Sun twice, once before, once after. The CanStar Metro, which is our community newspaper, I think I was in there about 4 times, many appearances in there. I was on TV news. I was Breakfast Television, City TV News. I was on CTV News. I was on Global News. They just came covering out. CBC was out there as well. They were doing interview. I never saw the coverage. Maybe it didn't show. Maybe it did. I don't know. But they were out there as well. It was really neat, kind of running along. And then I had these vans like leapfrogging me. Like they would go up a few blocks and they would set up their camera and watch me run by. And then they would drive and set up a few more blocks and just, I don't know if it's a slow news day or whatever, but that's what all they're doing is taking these shots. And also Ace Burpee from Virgin Radio, the morning show, he came out, actually ran with me for an hour the second day in the morning. And so they talked about me for a few times before the event. All morning they're talking about me. When he got back, they were talking about the event too, and talking about how all the people are honking and waving and all the signs and stuff, and I'll tell you about all that. But that was really fun. If anyone wants to see any of that, I have all the video, all the news coverage, the radio stuff. It's all on my website. Just Google me or the 24-hour marathon, and it's up there. So. And I wanted to make sure to connect with the kids in the neighborhood too and get people involved. This is actually members of the Westdale Junior High marathon team, and this is my son in his car chasing after them and their friend. But that was us. And then also this is before and after running with the students at Beaver Lodge Elementary School too. And one thing I should point out is the smiles on their faces, you know. And sometimes the people just need a reason to get excited and doing a good thing, you know. It doesn't have to be boring volunteering. It can be a real fun, exciting experience. And I was really glad that it turned out to be that for them. And I believe this was Nathan's cousin. He came out and ran with me, but it was sort of an illustration where I actually had people randomly just coming and running with me, okay? After the news, like around the lunch or the supper time news, I had people outside their door. Hey, I just saw you on the news. And there was actually one time where I was running and these 2 kids that just saw me on the news. I say kids, they're probably about 13 years old, 14 years old. They just saw me on the news and they're so excited that they ran out of their house to come run with me. But they came out so fast that they never actually bothered putting their shoes on. Okay? So they're running beside me in their sock feet, taking pictures with their cell phones and thinking this is going to be so awesome. I ended up getting them to, I said, I'll be back in about 40 minutes. You can run with me. So go back, get your shoes. And so they did, and they ran with me a loop. And it was really neat to see how excited they were. But again, it was something that was connecting with the community. I think it was more meaningful than just something maybe they hear about but don't quite truly understand. Now this is my son. He was making a sign. It was really neat in that this is an initiative started by Beaver Lodge Care for Kids, where my son was attending that year. And so he's making a sign, and this is actually it in my yard, because I was on the route. And so the kids made a whole ton of signs, and the daycare directors and the staff, they put them in a wagon and walked around the whole loop with all these little kids, 5 years old or whatever, and they're popping up all these signs. So the day before they had all these signs, and what was magical too was not only were those signs on the route, but other people clued in, and throughout the day more and more people popped up signs in their yards or whatever and put like sidewalk chalk messages and stuff like that. And so here's just a sample of just some of them on there too. So some of them said, my name, or some of them said lunches with love. Here's some more here to do. Or again, so again, it was a way to connect people to the cause. And here's some more too. And what was great is that you couldn't live in that neighborhood without knowing there was something going on that day. They saw it everywhere, And this was creative too. At the school, they had just cut the grass. It was really long. And so they put in here way to go with the grass clippings on there too. It's a fun little creative thing. And this is just close to me, a couple of girls and their parents. They put that on the sidewalk of the route I was going. And there was even people who were leaving water bottles like out by the sidewalk in case I needed it and stuff like that, eh? And it was really, really neat. And this is, again, about something small that could get really big. It was really exciting. And I didn't even know that was possible. here's our donation stand, and that was at Roblin and Dale, and there's Nathan with a honk for Scott. In fact, I should say all day long, people are honking and waving at me. And I'll tell you, if you ever honk and wave at me, the reality is, because of the reflection of the glass, I usually can't see you. Okay? So I'm just like, hey, like I know everybody, right? But that was really great. And so you can already see some donations of the tuna that came in, because I know that we had sort of advertised that was a big thing. Again, here's 24 hours marathon lunches with love, and that was Jen. It was Jen and Andy from the Beaver Lodge Care for Kids that actually operated the stand. And a whole bunch of people with signs at the top there. What they started doing was they had the signs up by the intersection, and people are stopping and giving out money out the window, you know? And so the kids are coming back with all this cash, you know, and people are driving up, what's going on? And they explain it to them. They're like, oh, here's some money. Or they went and got food, and they brought it back. One person was a masseuse. They said, here's a card. Come, Scott can get a free massage afterwards, you know? I ended up having to go to a work trip, so I couldn't. But it was a gesture that was appreciated. And here's some people, some coaches from the cheerleading team that operates right nearby as well, doing a little stunt there. But Sarah, she's the head coach of Dynamite cheer team. My daughter's part of that, and I was part of the parent team too. So, and here's again, another shot of the donations came just from the stand. Now, not only this, I had lots of friends starting to support me too, okay? And again, to me, this is all surprising. I thought I was just some guy running around in a circle, but in the end, I was really amazed at how sort of ignorant I am of the goodness that was out there and how much people actually wanted to help and a reason to help. So some of my running friends, okay? Now, this is Dale. Now, I thought I was the only one with bright yellow shoes, okay? But I wasn't. Dale has them too. And without us even planning, you know how, ladies, you don't want to go somewhere and they have your dress, the same dress, right? Well, he came with this black shorts and a red shirt, just like me. And because we're of sort of similar age, similar build, similar look, that my wife would have to look kind of doubly carefully to know who was who in that particular case. Of course, I had my sign on there too. But Dale, he was coming out and running. This was amazing in that, other than maybe 4 hours, the 24 hours in the beginning, the first morning, the rest of the day, I had someone running, one or multiple people running with me the entire time. Didn't matter if it was midnight, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m., there's always someone with me the whole way. This is my friend Bob. I call him Barefoot Bob because he runs barefoot. And he ran with me for 6 hours that afternoon, and then he was at the stand later on that day. Here's some more friends of mine. There's Dale again. Melissa and David are on the outside. They're great 100-mile runners. And one thing, I don't know if you noticed, that myself and Melissa have a little fairy wand. They're little glow stick fairy wands, because I think David bought just about every glow stick there was at whatever dollar store he went to, because we had necklaces on. Melissa had, glow sticks all over her, and then David had somehow planted glow sticks the whole course around. So it could be on the grass or in the back bumpers or on shrubs, but I swear the whole way it was all with glow sticks. And even my dad says, I woke up the next morning, there's glow sticks in my yard. I couldn't figure out what was going on. So there must have been a few people who are thinking the same thing in that case. But yeah, and here's the next morning. They put up just a regular red streamer as a finish tape or whatever. That was really cool. We had a whole bunch of students from Beaver Lodge, again, coming out, and teachers and parents and all that. And that was really exciting and fun. I'm holding a GoPro camera. Tensor gave me a GoPro camera, so I did kind of I put together an 8-minute sort of video blog of the experience that's online on my website as well. But in the end, which is really great about this is no one cared, no one ever asked, how far were you going to go? Because this wasn't about sort of athletic achievement so much as just being out there, putting in the time. But it was a personal challenge to me, and I tracked 151.5 kilometers. So yeah, it was just under 100 miles, but 151.5 kilometers, 24 hours, which by that time was the longest I'd ever run in both distance and time up to that point, and still up to now. Anyway, so here's some results then. In addition to the media and the community engagement, which are both huge and are still paying dividends to the charity, got $2,000 from Tensor, plus over $1,100 in cash and gift cards provided at that stand. 485 cans of tuna, 15 dozen eggs, 6 large jars of mayonnaise, 910 paper bags, and from all the food drives, literally hundreds of granola bars, fruit cups, pudding cups, snacks, and many loaves of bread. So able to make lots of lunches out of that. In fact, the $2,000 they just received about a week ago, and so now we're seeing the fruits of that as well. Now, it was really exciting just to cap this off. This is Myrna Dreger, the MLA for Charleswood. She actually came out to the stand to support the effort as well. And it was only about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago, she did a private member statement in the legislature and talking about the efforts of Lunches with Love and most specifically about the 24-hour marathon that was happening in Charleswood. And at the end, all the MLAs, including the Premier, did a standing ovation, and we were there, and it was so awesome in the end to see sort of how this affected people and how it was being recognized, and that was really a proud moment right there as well. So, and this all came from really one small idea. You know, sometimes we think that, I mean, we don't seem motivated to do something because we think it's just not enough. We don't want to give a little bit of money because we don't think it's going to go very far. We don't want to, whatever it is, you know. But the fact is that this is one example that surprised me. One small idea can make a difference. One small idea can inspire others. One small idea can snowball into something even bigger, and this is just one example. So this comes to the question then, and this is where sort of my element when it comes to skepticism. I like to question. I like to question myself, and I encourage you to question yourself on this here too. What can you do? Get your mind going on that. What can you do? What talents do you have? What passions do you have? What could you do? Whether it's activism, education, donations, volunteerism, what could you do? Or just helping the person down the street, what can you do that would make a difference? Because if Nathan can just, like a kid, 12-year-old, can just start making some lunches and turns into something big, or me, I just ran around in a circle, turned into something big, ultimately something that you can do can make a big difference too. And ultimately, it's just the idea now of what can you do? Well, whatever it is, to do it today. So thank you very much. Yes, sir.
What is really saddening to me listening to this talk is that there was not a single picture of people whom the food goes to. You know, it's all about happiness and smiles and media, but I see a kind of objective, like for example, you show the picture of kids that were in that high school. Do you think that the kids that received the food look the same? If I were you, I would run in the neighborhood that get the food, not in the rich neighborhood with happy, smiley, rich families. I don't see any intimacy with the actual suffering, with the problem. And I think it's very problematic. And in a bigger picture, what I see in this is that rich countries like the US who want to help people and go bomb them with for humanitarian aid. You know, I see the same distance here. It's the same city. People in the same city get the food, but there is no connection. It's like two different worlds.
All right. Well, I can say a few things on that. One would be that Lunches with Love, the reason that their family is so passionate about that way of giving back is that the people involved in the charity do get a personal connection. There are a lot of the people who go and volunteer are also the ones that deliver and distribute the food. And so just the act of being part of the charity, not of my effort, but of being the act of part of the charity does create a connection, because I agree that a lot of times, and that's what I try to say, is sometimes if we send money somewhere, it helps, but we don't get that personal connection. But when it came to what I was doing, okay, I can only do so much, and what I chose to do is try to, see, in order to create the story in this particular case, the story that would attract the interest, that would attract people in the community to get involved, to attract the media, is connecting it to an area, specific area, my neighborhood, okay? Trying to bring people together in my neighborhood and the schools and the kids, and trying to bring them together to help a particular cause. If I were to run downtown Winnipeg or in the school itself, like I had done before, it would be a different story. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring the awareness to the charity to the community where the charity was operating, so that we could increase the base of the people getting involved. So I think that's a necessary step. I get your point, but there's more. Okay, I guess I can stop. I can stop there. I understand the problems that you're saying, but in order to get my community involved, I did it in my community, and then once they're involved, they can give back there. Does that make sense? Did that help at all?
Yeah, it does, but I suggest maybe in future presentation at least show a picture of people who receive the food, or try to run with the homeless person who gets the food.
Yeah, it's a different story. I guess my story today is about what can we do in our circle of influence. This is my circle of influence. A different presentation would be, what are the problems out there? And that wasn't necessarily the focus of what I was trying to do. Just saying that we have the ability to do something, whatever your cause or passion might be. I think it's just a slightly different presentation, but I absolutely get your point. Anyone else? You can ask another one. I know you want to ask another one.
Yes. You mentioned earlier, before your presentation, when we were standing here, that you're giving this presentation to the humanists, atheists, agnostics, etc. Are you giving this presentation to anyone else, or have you, like to other schools or other organizations, or?
No, I haven't taken on the road. Because, like, I speak for a living, but it's not specifically on a topic like this. Because I speak for corporate events, so I mean, it has to do sort of with a motivational angle or with empowerment of ourselves. But it wouldn't speak specifically to this. But these are two things that I saw as an opportunity to present it, and I thought it was worthwhile. But presenting to other schools, I mean, it might come up.
Yeah,
it might come up, you know. Now Nathan actually does really good at presenting, even though he's like 13. He's done a lot of presentations now where he will actually talk about not only what he does, but what you're talking about is what the actual need is as well. So he does a good presentation on that, and he calls it the power of one, which is sort of a similar idea too. But that's another thing, you know, the idea that it's a kid that started this is a great story too, that's attracted a lot of interest. As well. A lot of it's about the story, you know, getting awareness for anything is about the story. And I tell people this sometimes, I could go run across Canada, but I don't think I would get as much media interest as I did for this. Because once in a while you see clips of, oh, so-and-so's biking across Canada, so-and-so's, you know, walking up from north or whatever, and they're such amazing accomplishments, more amazing than what I just did, but so often they don't get the coverage that they deserve, you know. What was the story? And in this case, it was about circling the community, connecting the community, and then all the interests came together. Because if I were to say run through all of Winnipeg, the connection would be diluted, right? And the story wouldn't be the same. People wouldn't connect as much because the same, you know, the people who lived in the area, or the storekeepers and all that, they kept seeing me circle around and around and around, and then they started wondering what's going on, and they started looking it up or whatever, you know. But well, that's a good point. Could be done. Hey, yeah.
I guess I just like your advice on picking, determining what's achievable personally, because I'm listening to you, I'm very motivated. I'm ready to go solve world hunger. You know, like we said, the baloney meter. If I walked up to you and said, I'm going to solve world hunger because that's what I can do today, my baloney meter would go off. So this was achievable for you in your situation. What would be your advice to someone who's looking to pick something achievable for them today? because we don't all. I can't run 24 hours. Nor am I 13,
Yeah.
so I can't.
It's true. It's true.
Me going out and putting some lunches in a bag isn't going to have the same effect as a 13-year-old who is really empowered to help someone. That's a great start.
Yeah.
I'm not a great start.
Well, it's exactly the same when it comes to marketing of any product or anything. And because in my business, I market myself, it's so hard to look at yourself and say, like, what's different or special about me? Why should people care? What can I uniquely do? And so often, because we're so used to ourselves, like we see someone else doing something like, that's incredible, or that's a cool story, but then we don't realize something, like, all of us have a certain combination of skills and talents and passions, and just the fact that you're here, I mean, you have a set of passions and skills that perhaps other people don't have, but I think that it's important to look at your, when I was talking about running, like 24 hours, I was really worried that no one would care. Like I was really worried that no one would care because it's just me running. Who cares about, so it was hard for me to appreciate as well. But I guess we need to look at ourselves and say, what am I passionate about? What am I good at? And how could this help? I don't know, that's so vague, isn't it, you know? But it's going to be so different to everyone. Because if you're good with I mean, obviously you're good with speaking, then you can go out to groups. If you're good with money, you could be a part of an organization, be the treasurer. You know what I mean? Like there's different ways. I mean, these are almost extreme examples, right? But similarly, like what you're speaking to, there was another group that were inspired by Lunches with Love, and they started doing the same thing, but they didn't quite have the same support that was built around them. And I think some of that had to do with the story there as well. So yeah, we can't pretend to be someone else. We can't, but if there's something we're passionate about, if there's a cause we're passionate about, and we have certain skills, we have to think about how can we connect those skills with what we're passionate about, what we want to do. And we can't solve the world. We can't solve world hunger. And sometimes I think to myself, why bother doing this when maybe you could help train people to long-term be more self-sufficient? But I don't know how to do that. So right now, if I can help people today, that's better than nothing, I think, right? Like I think something is better than nothing personally. You know, you don't want to just say, well, this isn't good enough, so therefore I'm not going to do anything. That stops so much of us, you know. But if there's just a little bit of difference, if there's like some person down the street that needs help moving, I mean, that's good too, you know. Like just little things that we do, I think, can add up. Yes, sir.
It seems like one of the things that you touched on a couple of times, both in this presentation and last year, was setting specific goals. So you talked about setting the 100-mile goal last year, and you talked about setting you wanted two pieces of coverage this year, and you had a certain time that you wanted to go. And whether the goals are achievable or not, setting specific goals might help sort of make that difference in your mind that takes it from abstract into sort of reality, makes it seem more real.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. That gets dangerously into the territory where people are like, well, if you create a goal, it will manifest in reality, right? Yeah.
I'm not talking Rhonda Burton. I'm just saying that for me in my life, when I like making lists of things that I like. If I know I need to do something big, breaking it down into steps helps me a lot because it takes it from something, I'll get to that eventually. Yeah. It gives me smaller steps that are things that I can aim for specifically.
Yeah, and when I sort of imagined this, it bounced around in my head, but it wasn't until I actually started writing down all the things I could do, like for my proposal I gave them, because I knew that I could send out press releases and this would be the story. I could get the schools involved. I could, I kind of came up with a list of all the things that could potentially happen in this. And it's interesting too, because with the running the 100 miles, I didn't hit that goal at that particular time. In this case, I set a goal and I far exceeded it, which is a whole different thing. But yeah, you have to have a vision, I think, something concrete. Because if you're just going to say that, I don't know, you want to help, so how are you going to do it? And to write it down, yeah, specifically, and some sort of action steps to do. And it could be just, being involved with the Habitat Humanity the one day, or, that you do it here and all that. It could be small things like that too. Yeah?
I think this is a great story. What Nathan's done is great. I really appreciate that. I like running. I understand that as an interest as well.
Is there a butt coming?
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
I don't understand the connection between the two. The media eats it up. I know we're always hearing about someone running to do this, running to do that. Putting on a pink t-shirt and running does not change breast cancer.
Right.
I've dedicated my career to advancing the science of helping people. I know not everybody wants to do it through their career. But every time we hear about somebody running for something or other, I'm always so skeptical about it. I have to ask, why? Why?
Well, are you asking because you don't think it does any good?
Running is great for our health, and if we're trying to encourage its good health habits, hey, that's awesome.
Now, do you think that anything good came out of this?
I don't understand why it's better.
Well, but there's a difference between why. There's a difference between why and the result, right? Are you questioning what is it about our society that attracts us to this as opposed to something else? Or are you questioning that anything good came out of this at all? Because we got donations and we got people volunteering and we got money that came in and all that. You know what I mean? I'm just clarifying where you're coming from so we can discuss.
I'm wondering if we could have gotten more by celebrating. I think filling the lunch bags is awesome. More by focusing on filling lunch bags and showing people that than running. I just don't
But it didn't, though. That's the thing. They were promoting and they got some press, but the press does love this human interest story. I would love to be able to forward the science in helping a disease. I would love to be able to somehow solve economic problems. I know that that's better in the long run, but what can I do is always the question. I can only donate so much food and money. In this case, we got over $3,000 in money. We got a ton of food, again, to support the cause. Do you dispute that something good came from that, or is it go back to Lunches with Love and whether they're doing good?
I prefer the Lunches with Love story than the running story.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I'm not saying that I'm better. I'm just saying that I'm a supporter, right? And this is the way I chose to support them in their efforts. I don't know how to get more results to help Lunches with Love than I got in this particular case. This is how I knew how to do it. I would like to think that people would just go to a talk about the science or to give to, whatever it is, but is there some way to bring the passion from people to come, adding excitement for the kids? They loved being part of it, but this is an opportunity for them to learn about the cause too, that they may not have heard about before, or they might not have talked about it with their family, or when their parents said, why is this guy running for 24 hours? They had to have some sort of answer to it. It's not all of them would understand, fine, but some of them would, and it's a conversation now they're having in their family. I think that this did some good, and it was the best that I knew to take what I can do, my specific talents, and leverage that and do my best to be the best cheerleader I could for Lunches with Love, which I think does some pretty good work as well. But ultimately, this is me bringing people together. And again, this is other people who wouldn't have even thought about helping them. They came into the picture and they helped, and I was just a catalyst for this too.
It's the same as if some place will do a charity golf event to raise money. This is your version of that. You weren't getting sponsored to run. You were bringing awareness. I think that's the value in something like this, is that you can't just go stuff a whole bunch of lunch bags yourself. I mean, you're limited, right? But something like this, which is extraordinary, can bring more attention to the charity. How many people have heard of this now that didn't hear of it before because of the coverage?
Right.
I think that's the point of stuff like this. It's like United Way will do fundraisers, that they'll do things like that to bring attention to their their cause and all that stuff. And I see that this is the same part of that. I mean, this is your skill. I think it's quite applicable.
If you build on that, I think the answer was in the question. The question was something along the lines of, every time I hear about this, I wonder what the point is you heard about it. So did somebody at Coca-Cola. And it's kind of those connections, those kind of tendrils that are pronounced that lead to so many actions.
One more question?
Yes, sir.
Oh, just as the opposite of the button you just got there. As someone who is generally not a big fan of awareness for awareness sake campaigns, I think in defense of what you were doing, which I think was a good thing, there were specific goals that were directly helping the charity. You specifically had food drives going on. You specifically were asking for donations because awareness itself doesn't solve problems, but you weren't just doing awareness. You were bringing awareness, but you were also bringing immediate, tangible benefits to the charity itself, and I think that's worth noting.
Yeah, and when I say awareness too, I don't necessarily mean just awareness for awareness sake. It's increasing awareness so that, because what Lunches with Love does is that every 2 weeks they have a collection of volunteers that come in. They work out of a community center now, so they have like 20 or 30 volunteers, and they need people around the community to donate food to. So, and this is not something that, you know, they just get a big batch of stuff and then they work through for a few months. They need regular, every 2 weeks to people participate in it, or the whole thing falls down. And so the awareness came in as far as we can get people to join up on their Facebook page and get engaged and share it around, that every time that there's a call out, that now there's a bigger base of people who will respond to that request for action because they heard about it on the news or whatever. Like, in my opinion, if we just had 2 more people, 1 more person that now volunteers once a month, that's more than they had before. And that's where the awareness comes in. So I think that awareness, in that case, translates to something very practical, where the food donations, I mean, it only lasts so long, but increasing the awareness and increasing the body of volunteers and people involved will help in years to come as well. Anyway, well, ultimately, I think that it's just what can you do? This is what I can do. Nothing's going to be ideal. No one person can solve all of the world's problems, but ultimately, all of us can do something. And in my opinion, even small things can add up, and small things can make a difference too. So that's what I present to you today. Thanks a lot, guys.